Well, let's start off with our first big story. The Naira has depreciated further against the US dollar at the parallel market, trading at 500 Naira to $1 from 498 Naira.
Now, the development came barely 1 week after the Naira touched 500 to $1 briefly and returned to 498. Now, the local currency had been stable against the greenback for about 3 weeks. But the Naira remains stable at the interbank window, exchanging at 305.25 kobo to $1. Now, traders say scarcity of the greenback is far from being over.
Now, reports indicate that in spite of the weekly sale of forex to BDCs by the Apex Bank, the Naira could not resist the temptation to fall. All right, that's the background now. All Nigerians are asking, when will things get better? When will things return to normal? When will things stabilize? These are the questions in the mind of every Nigerian, everyone in this country, and so on. But we'll talk about all that. Joining us is a financial analyst, Akin Omishade, joining us right now. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yeah. Now, let me ask this question. There has been lots of strategies by government, lots of policy putting in there, and then others policy reversal to try to see how the Naira will find its feet. But every strategy and policy so far has defied a solution. What is really the issue with the Naira?
We talk about policies. What policies? What policies has the government put in place? We benchmark the budget against 3005. But that's not the real value of the currency. The central bank last year did put in some attempts at stabilizing the Naira against the US dollar. Nothing happened. The government arrested the BDCs sometime last year. You're not putting confidence into the economy or into the sector. So when you talk about policies, I wonder what policies the government has actually put in place, or what the CBN governor is actually thinking through, or what the Minister for Finance is actually doing. I mean, these are critical times. We've had a budget now. This is the second month. No implementation. When are we going to implement it? So when you talk about
debates over the budget is just beginning.
Well, so there's so many issues. So when you talk about policies, I wonder where those policies, which policies you are referring to. So I find that a bit. You've just touched on a sore point when you talk about policies. We don't have
I want
direction.
to believe Mike is talking about at least some of the policies that the CBN has put in place with the delisting of 41 items from
that is why it's a policy on one hand, strategy on the other hand. These are different moves by government.
You call them policies, but they are not tangible policies. That's my own issue. That they are not tangible policies. They are not real policies. They are not making any difference. The Naira is on a free fall, and I don't see what is being done to stop that. The dollar is on a runaway. It's like a runaway train now.
So are you saying then, just like some people are already asking, that a state of emergency should be declared to halt the Naira's fall? I wonder what kind of state of emergency?
Well, I don't think it's that will send panic down the markets now. I don't think that. The first thing is, first of all, let's look at, you're talking about the Naira. You've benchmarked the Naira against the dollar 305. That is unrealistic. That is not true. Immediately you did that, the international community, the investor says, I'm not bringing my money into your country. Why would I bring it at 305 and you expect me to exchange it and take it out at least 500? So already I am losing how much? 195 to start with. Who's going to do business now with that? From the onset, there's a loss. So we're talking about scarcity of the dollar. That is one reason. Number two, we are producing, we've estimated that we'll produce 2.2 million barrels per day. That was what we estimated last year, 2.1 million. We didn't produce 2.1 million barrels per day, we produced 1.6 million against $37 to the barrel. So we're already having a shortfall of income. The militants in the Niger Delta are still active. We have estimated this year 2.2 million against $45 to the barrel. The barrel is now about 57, 58.
Yes.
So we expect to gain some income. But we're not going to produce 2.2 million. So already there's a shortfall of income.
In spite of the mild spike in the cost of
crude. Yes, because you are expecting to produce a certain amount against a certain price, but your value, your quantity of production will never meet that. So your income is already out of sync. Equally, look at the amount, the sectors or the avenues whereby we have exchange rates, or we have about 6. You have the personals, when families and friends send money to you and I from outside of the country. That's one income stream. We have people that bring in money into the country directly. They exchange it on the streets with the BDCs or the Malams or whoever. That's number 2. You have the parallel market. You have the interbank rate. So you have so many rates. So which is which?
All right, good, very good question there. We'll take a very short break and return with TVC Breakfast. We're looking at the free fall of the Naira, how to halt it.
Stay with us after the break. Right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and we are looking at the free fall of the Naira against the dollar. And the government has put up lots of strategies since last year when the recession was at its peak. Right now, 2017, Nigerians are looking for a better year, 2017, better strategies to rescue the Naira. We have with us in the studio Akinyo Mishade. He is a financial analyst, and we've been talking about this. Well, let us say that with the budget, looking forward to a heightened budget for 7 trillion Naira and all of that, how will that also help in trying to salvage the Naira? Budget implementation in 2017, for instance.
Well, first of all, analysts and economists have reviewed a lot about Nigeria. 7 trillion is a small amount of money. We need at least 100 trillion to kickstart, to actually get us to a stage whereby we say we are actually developing. So when you mention 7 trillion,
did you say 100 trillion?
100 trillion.
Okay.
Whoa.
That is what we need, because you need to fix the sectors such as transportation, power, agriculture, telecoms, health, and put in the basic structures, and then we begin to build on it. So when you say, and if you look at that over a 5-year period, so we need 20 trillion at least every year. And we're talking about 7 trillion. And if you look at our budget, how much is on capital expenditure? How much is on recurrency expenditure? How much are we actually borrowing? So 7 trillion might sound a humongous amount, but in real terms, it is nothing in the face of the challenges that we're
especially
going
with inflation eating into a large chunk of that
nearing
amount.
The 20s now.
Now, in talking about plans or attempts, or the absence of it, of the president, putting in some kind of proactive measures, some have compared the Abacha administration, where he actually deliberately, pegged or regulated the Naira in such a way that you had an exchange rate that hovered around 85 Naira to the dollar for upwards of 5 years. And it was Nigeria's economy was able to withstand the external sanctions, and all of that. Are the situations similar, and would you expect the same kind of move from Buhari?
Well, first of all, you're talking about a dictatorship.
Well,
Who could say, this is it, and we all had to obey? Look at the income stream as at then. Look at how much crude we were exporting as at then. The figures were different, radically different. So the topography of the economy as at then is different from now. We were more abiding. There was no liberalism then. It was what he said, was what was followed. There were no militants. There was no shortages. The income was higher. Right? Why did we go into recession? Is
in the
another
first place.
thing. Because then there was no shale. There was no alternative to crude oil. So if OPEC then said we were not supplying or we were not selling, prices went up. OPEC is no longer maintaining the monopoly it had years back. Today, the cost of producing shale gas, or shale itself, has fallen drastically, which as at then was not even well known. So if you look at if you compare those times and today, there's an alternative. The US can decide, I'm not buying from you. China can decide, I'm not buying. India can decide, I'm not buying your crude oil, because there's an alternative. And that's why the prices last year, or the year before, fell drastically, because there have been alternatives. And whenever the US stockpiles crude and decides, I'm going to let go of my crude, prices do fall.
But with a marginal increase in Nigeria's external reserves up to $28 billion now, one would have expected that should rub off in some way positively.
Yes, that should rub off. What I would say forward-thinking nations would have done when we had so much windfall. There are so many nations that have sovereign wealth funds, and they invested heavily. Why is Dubai still not crying out loud that, oh, listen, we are not making more money? They invested in sovereign wealth funds. They attracted foreign direct investment. We didn't do all that. We were just spending. You and I have been spending. Most people have spent on the dollar. Now the dollar is scarce, we're all crying. And what have we spent on? We've spent on consumables. We've not spent on production. We complain about the refineries. One breaks down today, the power sector. What did we spend the windfall on? We spent on consumables.
All right, so looking at it from this standpoint now,
yes,
how very helpless is the Naira as it is right now?
Quite helpless. And some time ago in Uganda, the Ugandan currency was referred to as toilet paper money. I pray and touch wood,
never gets to that.
Never gets to that situation in Nigeria. But my outlook is that we might hit 1,000 naira to the dollar before the year runs out. There's a lot of money coming in now, but there's a lot of loopholes as well. There's a lot of outflow, which is exceeding the inflow.
What are some of these loopholes you want to enlighten us?
Right. Look at how much we spend on imports against what we are exporting. Look at how much we are spending on maintenance. We've tried to block those with the TSA.
Yeah.
Look at how much we are losing on tax revenues. Businesses are closing. The companies that are supposed to come and invest are running away. So there's a lot of loopholes that we are losing money on. Look at the cost of living. You mentioned inflation. So those are things that we need to fix to strengthen or shore up the naira. Or worst case scenario, which is something a lot of people don't want to hear, which I resisted for a long time, hoping against hope that Mr. President will be the messiah, is to actually accept that the naira's value is actually 500 and devalue it that much, and then let it run.
All right, now the whistleblowing policy of Nigeria has led to recovery of some funds, and from the news and reports we got, almost about $150 million, over $150 million was recovered within a few days, and we expect much of. So, what all of this money is coming in from recovery of looted funds? How would they help in the scheme of things?
Okay. The worst place to put your money is where? It's the bank. It's not doing anything for you.
Say that again.
The worst place to put your money is in the bank.
The worst place to put your money?
So where would the best place be? In a vault in my village or what?
No.
Okay.
You start a business. Let the money regenerate itself. Because you're putting it in the bank, you're earning how much interest? The inflation is biting into your interest. The 1,000 naira you had in your pocket last year does not buy you as much as you bought today. I went shopping some time ago and I was shocked at the changes in prices between December and January. So all these monies that have been recovered, good question, Mr. President, why are we not spending it? I always say something, we can spend our way out of recession. If we have a policy that says, okay, we've recovered this money, Do we want to spend it on roads network? Let's start putting it there. We heard about the expressway being returned to tolls, whereby we'll pay tolls. Why don't we start putting those monies there? We have agriculture. We have the raw materials for agriculture. We have the raw products. Why don't we move away from the situation where we only have the raw products to production of finished products? So those monies are just sitting there. That's why I said the worst place to put it is in the banks. The banks are not actually lending as well because the interest rates are too high.
But what would be the fundamentals that need to be in place for all of this you're talking about to actually happen? You build infrastructure and what have you?
Yeah, manufacturing. Get back to the basics. We need to start generating enough money, enough foundation for the Naira to be strengthened. What are we exporting? We are happy to say we are producing pencils after so many years of independence.
I've heard some experts say, look, if we tackle the problem of power first, if the Buhari administration, for example, would only face power and nothing else instead of spreading itself so thin, that maybe we would actually get it right, because that's the foundation for the economy, any aspect of the economy to actually take off. But we will let you answer that when we come back from this short break. But let's remind you, viewers on TVC Entertainment, that you can continue with TVC Breakfast on TVC Nigeria on Concert Channel 190, DSTV 418.
You can also get us on GoTV 45 and ACTV 510. So if you are on entertainment, you can log off there and come onto this side and follow the program. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.
Right, you're welcome back. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we're looking at the free fall of the Naira, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward in terms of ways to actually halt this free fall.
And rescue the Naira.
Akin Omishade is a financial analyst, is our guest in the studio this morning. I was asking you before we went on that break, if this government decides that, look, power is key to development, and let's just face power and tackle it head on. We've heard from the presidency that Nigeria hopes to achieve 10,000 megawatts.
One of the nations that will have constant power supply. Why not? It will go a long way. The 2020 vision was to have 43,000 megawatts. We're not yet even close to half of that. 3 years to go. And when you talk about power, there are also renewable sources of power as well that could generate further income. Nigeria is one of the 7 top nations in the world that has one of the best reserves of liquefied natural gas. But if you go to where those gases are, we're flaring them, burning them away. And every time I see reports about that, that means we are burning the greenback. So yes, power is very, very crucial. When you have a stable power supply, businesses will run better. We don't have a 24-hour economy in this nation, which is sad. So that means after a time, our economy shuts down.
That's true.
And this affects production. And that's why I'm saying that to get us out, to get the Naira strengthened, we need to start producing. Our factories, television stations, hospitals, market, we need to get them working. And if we have, truly, if we have power supply, we will begin to be on our way there. It's not just power. Power goes a long way. Power will have power supply, we'll have factories producing at maximum capacity with lesser expenditure. Look at the amount. The diesel was at one point selling at 260 to the liter. If you buy 1,000 liters, how many days would you run 1,000 liters for? The generators will break down. You'll need a backup generator. So you look at all those overhead costs and how much is the cost of production. So that's one. We need to go back to agriculture. We have a lot. There was a time last year that we complained about the tomatoes getting rotten. Why was that? We had a tomato production glut in the north, but there was no transportation system to bring them down to the southwest and to the southeast. So what happened? There was a rot.
Right. You talked about manufacturing earlier on.
Yes.
Now power, transport, all of these infrastructures, they take a long time. It's a long-term strategy to have them running, as the case may be. So between now and that time, where even if government decides that is what we want to do, for instance, between now and that time, what happens? Wouldn't things get so bad?
No.
Okay.
It's a catch-22 situation. We need to first of all start. When we start, we begin to instill confidence. Now, when you have confidence in the international community, then they can invest, and that will expedite the process. But we are not yet started. You don't have power supply, you don't have water supply. Look at the airports. You don't have transportation, you don't have aviation. Who's going to come in? You don't have a functional civil service. Who's going to come in? So all these things are intertwined. And when we begin to, okay, we take one, there'll be a knock-on effect. We have power. Businesses will start to run. When businesses start to run, there's confidence in the sector. Now we have investors coming in. They inject funds into the economy. It's easier to get funds out. The CBN is working well. The banks are relaxed. You are relaxed. We can all begin to spend.
And that knock-on effect is the reason why I talk about power being the very foundation. I mean, if let there be light, and every other thing started, you know, all around
so
that.
That's what I'm saying, that
You talk about that. You talked about
issues.
agriculture,
Yes.
and you said we've not even started. With all this talk about what we need to diversify the economy,
Yes.
and agriculture will be a major
Driver
of that diversification effort.
Yes.
With the $98 billion naira, oh, I wish it was dollars, set aside for agri.
Yes.
Does that really demonstrate that this government really is serious about making agri the focus of this economy?
Well, you said 19 billion. Sounds like
Around
a huge
that.
sum of money. The state of Florida, the state of Iowa, spend much more than that on a yearly basis on agriculture. So where are we starting from? We could be the food basket of Africa. So, question, 19 billion on what? Is it on grains and feeds? Is it on the manufacturing or the processing of the raw materials, the raw products from the farmlands? Are we mechanizing the agricultural sector? So because we need further direction. Say, I'm allocating 19 billion to what? Agricultural sector. We have the fisheries, we have palm kernels, we have groundnuts, we have cocoa in the southwest. So when you talk about all that, we have tin, we have iron ore. Look at our geography still rolling.
So Nigeria basically is one virgin country that has
we have the thing is we have so much
tapped.
potentials. Okay, we look at the rise between Kebbi State and Lagos State. What has happened? There's so much noise about it.
We've not heard anything.
What were the other states doing? We could start exporting that. Okay, we got it. We could start exporting that to other West African countries. We're the largest importer of rice in the world. When will we start exporting? Was it a flash in the pan? What is this next step? Okay, we had it over Christmas. What has happened between Christmas and date?
Yeah.
When are we going to export that rice? Even if it's to our West African brothers and sisters. Let's start doing that. That was a good step. What are the other states doing? I mentioned cocoa for a reason. The EU, and maybe Brexit will favor Nigeria, the EU has put in their fair trade on cocoa beans. But look at even coffee. We take out the raw beans and then we get the best coffee products. But when we say we have cocoa, we can make it into chocolate bars, cocoa drinks, and export it.
And what have you.
And beverages. So you see, we need to, and look at the man producing the cocoa. He's still farming with the hoe and the cutlasses. And the man goes to the farm at 7 a.m. By 3 p.m., he's tired.
He's tired.
And he remains poor.
And he remains poor. So, do you want to give him feed? Do you want to give him fertilizer?
All right, we have seen that China has been very interested in taking over taking over Africa, let me put it that way.
Right.
And they have been going into everything. At the time, Nigerian president was in China at the time, and all of the thoughts in the minds of Nigerians was that this is going to be Uhuru. But how can Nigeria really take advantage of a very strong partnership with China in bringing in all of investments from China into Nigeria?
Well, what is China exporting to Nigeria? China is exporting its technology, its know-how, its expertise. We were going to get a 30 billion loan, but I don't give a loan into an economy that I don't have any confidence in. So China is telling you, keep consuming. So for the Chinese government, for the Chinese economy, it is win-win. But we should not say we want to consume. We want to learn from what they have done. That should be the way it should be. There was a time Taiwanese products were termed to be inferior.
Yes.
We have our folks in the southeast that we could learn from them. We had the innocent motors. What has happened to it?
Now, speaking of China, is China a threat to Nigeria? Nigeria's market is open for every and any Chinese product to come in. How beneficial, really, or mutually beneficial, is this relationship between Nigeria and China? I mean, when you say we can learn from them, the Chinese didn't learn from anybody. What they did was to go inwards, shut their doors and say, look, we're going to find out exactly what the secret is to these people's development, whether you're talking about the US and the rest of them.
Yeah.
Is that something Nigeria should be thinking about doing?
That's what I was saying. That's what I meant by saying we can learn from them.
Okay.
We can learn from them. Get their products and learn from them. That's what I meant. And that's why I referred quietly to the Taiwanese regime as well, because they took all these products and said, okay, I mean, look, for instance, when we had contact sets in old cars, so what it is okay, we'll take this product and we'll try and copy it. And we have the brains to do that. We can get the Chinese government to come and invest and set up factories and do all that, yes, but it doesn't stop there. They can invest in us and then export from us, but not bringing in their own finished product.
Okay. All right, Akiyomi Sade, financial analyst, thank you for coming on the program this morning. Thank you very much.
Of course, the discussion continues.
All right, let's go on a break and we come back. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.